Hello everybody and welcome back to Recorded Words and Pages. My name is Natalie and welcome to a delayed June wrap-up. I have honestly just been procrastinating filming this video. So June was not a great reading month for me. I ended up reading 13 books, which so far is my third highest book number, but 6 of those books were romance books that I was able to read in one day. So for most of June I was feeling pretty slumpy, and I did have some disappointments that just weren't making me excited about reading very much. The first book I managed to finish in the month of June is The Score by Elle Kennedy, and this is the third book in the Off-Campus series. And in this book we are following Dean, who is a hockey player, and he's a rich kid, a bit of a player. He moves around girls very quickly. And Allie, who at the beginning of the book has just gotten out of a long-term relationship that she's been with for 3 or 4 years. And so Allie is a bit on the rebound, looking for a little bit of a rebound, and she and Dean end up hooking up, and then Allie's like, okay, we can never do this again. But of course there is an attraction between the two of them, and so the book follows them as Dean is trying to get Allie to give him another chance. I really enjoyed this. I think this is my favorite in the series so far. It was just a lot of fun, and Dean and Allie's chemistry I thought was really good, and I really enjoyed their characters and seeing them grow. And I gave that, I believe, 4 stars. Next up, I read The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, which is the third book in the Mistborn trilogy, and it's also the conclusion. And Mistborn is set in a world where people can control different metals, and people who control metals, called Elementers, and Mistborn can control all types of metals. And in this world there's also an oppressive ruler, and we're following a team of people as they try to take down the oppressive government. And this book is just amazing. The whole series is amazing. Brandon Sanderson is a genius. This book was just so perfect with all the storylines and the way they wrapped up. It's just, I can't express how much I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was absolutely phenomenal. Next up, I read Sight Witch, which is book 2.5 in the Witchland series, and this is following Ryber's story, and the Witchland series is by Susan Dennard. This is definitely an interesting one because the rest of the books in the Witchland series are multi-perspective, but focusing in on one character. This book is really just Ryber stories, and there's also a past timeline of about maybe 1,000 years before, following Eurydice, who is another Sight Witch. This story follows Ryber at her time at the Sight Witch Coven, and how all the Sight Witch sisters are disappearing into the mountain. And it's a Ryber story, and it definitely is going to connect somewhat into the key series. I've heard that this book is very important to read and that you should not skip it when reading the Witchland series, and I enjoyed it. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. I really enjoyed finding more about Ryber and her past because we didn't really get to know her previously in the books. Next up, I read The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn, which is the second book in the Bridgerton series, and in this one we're following Anthony, who is the Viscount. He has become the Viscount of the Bridgerton Viscount, I guess. I don't know really how the titles work. He is the eldest Bridgerton brother, and he's been a bit of a rake in his past, but he's reformed now, and he's looking for a wife. And also Anthony throughout stories is convinced that he is going to die when he reaches 30, because that is when his father died. And so he sets his eye on a girl, I don't remember her name, but Kate, who is the older sister of the girl he's trying to pursue, decides, no, you cannot have my sister, I don't trust you. And they don't get along, but then they have chemistry, and then they fall in love. I really enjoyed this one. I really liked the chemistry between the two of them. I really liked Kate. She was quite strong and independent, and she and her sister had a really nice bond. And yeah, I enjoyed this book greatly. I think I gave it another 4 stars. Next up, I read quite a disappointing one, and that is The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. And this is the second book in the Remnant Chronicles series, and I just was so disappointed by this book. So in this series, we follow Leah, who is a princess, and she flees the capital of her city from her family because they are trying to push her into an arranged marriage, and she does not want this. So she and her best friend flee to a faraway village to start a new life, except for Leah is followed by 2 strangers. 1, the man who she was supposed to marry, and 2, an assassin from a faraway kingdom. And there's a love triangle, and it's following Leah in this village, starting this new life, these 2 men who have come to find her. And yeah, the twist in this one is you don't know which man is which, so Yeah, I really like the first book. This book, I did not. The love triangle still is in this book, and I just did not enjoy this. There was quite a shift of power between Leah and one of the guys, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. And there was just some really strange vibes I got from another character that made me concerned, is this going to turn into a love square? Thankfully it didn't, but I still got those vibes. And just frankly, I found this book boring. I felt like it dragged on and on. It could have been like half its length. So I'm still probably gonna finish this series, but I was just very disappointed by this book. And like, we get bits of world building in this book, but I thought we'd get like more that has to do with kind of, there's just kind of this like underlying plot that I can't talk about because it would be a spoiler, but I thought we would kind of get more to do with that, and we didn't. Next up, I read Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is one that started out so incredibly strong, and then it did fade away a bit. So this book, we're following Kathy, who was kind of reflecting back on her childhood as she is reunited with two of her old friends, Ruth and Tommy, who she went to school with. And they went to this very like secluded boarding school in the English countryside. And when they were growing up, they were always told how special they were. And it's just kind of her reflecting back on her life. We see her through her school years and as she left the school and stuff. And yeah, so the first part of this book I loved. It was so good. I love the school setting and everything. And then I just felt like the book lost its interest kind of to a certain level. I got kind of bored, and like the twist at the end about like why they're all so special, I just found lackluster. It's not even that like I didn't like the twist, it's just the way the twist happened was just Everyone talks about how emotional this book is, and I just didn't get it. And I hated the ending. Like, okay, hate it. I did not like the ending. So I gave this book 3.5 stars because I enjoyed the beginning. The middle was like fine, but I didn't love it, and then the end was just not for me. Next up, I read The Fountains of Silence by Rita Sepetys, and in this book we're following Daniel, who is a young American boy who's really into photography and journalism, as he travels to Madrid, which is under the rule of Francesco Franco, who is basically a dictator. Fascism, I think, was it, I believe. And he encounters Anna, who is working at the hotel he is staying at, and through her he starts to discover some of the secrets about Madrid and what they're trying to hide from the tourists that are coming over, and I really enjoyed this book. So both Daniel and Anna are the main points of view, and we get them a lot, but we also get like points of view from other side characters, just kind of letting you in more about what's kind of going on under the surface. And I just thought this book was incredibly well done. It wasn't quite as emotional as Salt to the Sea, which is the other Rita Sepetys book I've read, but I still thought it was really well done. And yes, I gave this book 4 stars. Reverting back to some more Elle Kennedy. First up, I read The Goal, which is the final book in the Off-Campus series. This is Tucker and Sabrina's book, and I liked it. I mean, I feel like it's just like the romance between the two of them. There's not much else. And it's just like Sabrina doesn't really want a real relationship, and Tucker's like just kind of waiting around for her to be ready. I liked it. Yeah, okay, I gave this one like 3.5 stars. Then I read The Chase by Elle Kennedy, which is the first book in the Briar U series, which is the spin-off series. And in this one, we're following Summer, who is Dean's brother, who's a bit flighty. She transfers to Briar after getting kicked out of her old school for like burning down a building. And we're following her and the romance of Fitz, who's another hockey player, and her roommate. And you know, at first Summer really likes Fitz, and then she doesn't like him. It's just following the romance between the two of them, and I really liked it. I loved Summer and Fitz. Summer was just an absolute icon. Absolutely adored that girl, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read The Risk by Elle Kennedy, which is following Brianna, who we meet in The Chase, who is one of Summer's friends. She is the daughter of the hockey coach, and it's following her romance with Jake, who is the captain of the rival Harvard hockey team. So, you know, they're not really supposed to be together, but they have chemistry. And what I really liked about this book is it focuses some on like past trauma, because Brianna has a lot of past baggage, which kind of impedes her from like opening up and stuff, and I really liked the way they talked about that, and it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. One that I was not as enthused by is An Offer from a Gentleman by Julia Quinn, which is the 3rd book in the Bridgerton series. In this one, we're following Benedict, who is the 2nd brother in the Bridgerton family, I believe, and Sophie, who is a maid, and it is the romance between the 2 of them. And I didn't really like this one. I gave it 3 stars because I loved Sophie, but I despised Benedict. Just in certain ways, the way he treated Sophie and completely disregarded her wishes, took advantage of like her when she was like in emotional distress and stuff like that, did not do it for me. My sister read some of these books and we just went on a rant session about Benedict because he was just not it. The final book I'm going to talk about in this wrap up, technically I finished in July, but it was the reason that I probably read so little later in the month. That's because I was just enjoying it, indulging in it, because I absolutely loved it, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. In this book we're following Elizabeth, or Lizzie, who is the 2nd daughter and a daughter of 5, I think they are, and her mother is very concerned with getting everyone married off, and then Mr. Darcy, who is the friend of a gentleman who starts renting out a place nearby. Elizabeth and Darcy don't have the best first meeting, and it's following their story, and there's a lot of different layers to it, but ultimately it is their romance, and I absolutely adored this book. First off, the romance between them, really liked it, and just like all the other plot lines were so good. I can't sing this book's praise enough. The banter in this book between Elizabeth and Darcy was amazing. The way Jane Austen wrote characters that you were just supposed to laugh at and find it incredibly hilarious and annoying was amazing. The side characters were all developed and fleshed out, and just I cannot sing this book's praise enough. It was amazing, and I gave it 5 stars. So those were all the books I read in June. I had an okay reading month, I would say. You know, I think July is gonna be better. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Down below you will find links to all of the books I talked about, as well as my Goodreads and my Bookstagram if you want to follow me there. Subscribe to see more content from me, and I will see you all again in my next video. Bye!